Yes.
She was a school
Such a
teacher.
sweet lady.
Oh, she's wonderful. And then on my mom's side, the Hearst bunch, of course. And so Lanny, who I know is a frequent
Wait a
flyer.
minute. The Hearst bunch. Who are those people?
Well, I don't know that you know any of them,
The
Jeff.
Hearst people. Okay.
But yeah, we go back a ways
right.
on that front. Lanny.
We've got somebody
hey,
joining us
Charlotte.
here for a
No,
second.
so
Hey, Miss
sorry.
Charlotte.
I meant to get in here 2 minutes earlier. I'm
Yes.
so sorry. So, Jeff, what I've done for you,
Okay.
The internet is down, and I explained this to Ryan right quick. And so what we've just walked into is I've started recording the session for you.
Okay, good.
So that I know you went live radio, but now I've recorded it for you so that we can go back and
Facebook
put you,
viewers can see it.
so we
Cool,
can put
yeah.
it back on Facebook and YouTube after you're done.
Oh, good deal.
So
Good deal.
we can see Ryan's pretty face.
Good deal.
Well, hopefully the camera won't break.
No. So I've started. So Jeff is not as privy to technology.
Yep.
And so we'll get you on Facebook and YouTube.
All right. Did you hear that backhanded compliment I just got?
I did. Thanks, Charlotte.
Very good. Awesome, good. So we're going to have that.
Have that.
we'll
We'll have that and be able
to,
to
post it on Facebook.
Cool.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So
Good.
back
So back
to,
to,
sure,
yeah,
Egley-
Egley.
the Egley
Yeah,
line.
yeah,
The
the Hearst line.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. And
the
Hearsts,
you know,
you can go back, St. Joe, North Alabama. Of course, I think Lanny was on a few months ago and told the whole story there. We encourage everyone to go back and rewatch that. It was special to all of us. But, when you think about, I guess, more contemporary family, granddad, small business owner, dad, small business owner, mom has worked at Columbia State. I was basically born at Columbia
Now,
State.
for those who don't know, your dad is Tim.
Tim
Egley.
That's
That's
Yeah.
right. Tim Egley, and then my stepmother's Lori. She's an educator, and then my mom, again, Columbia State, worked her way up from an educator to being a senior leadership position there. Just done a fantastic job. And then my stepdad, he's Wayne County, and we don't hold that against him. He has worked in local manufacturing for a number of years, and so pretty well rounded as a sibling group, if you will, and again, very blessed to call Lawrence County home and have those roots.
You've
You've lived here pretty much all your life.
That's right.
All your life. And but now what part of the county do you guys live in?
I
actually know.
Where'd you
Where'd you grow up,
Yeah,
buddy?
so
We grew up behind the high school, in the Breezeway subdivision, which is the Burline Circle, Weekly Creek Road area.
Yeah.
Lived there. Actually, I still live in that neighborhood, and then also had the privilege of running around the Marcus Farm quite a bit down in Long Branch on Dad's side. So we got the big city Lawrenceburg life, but also the country southeastern or southwestern, I should say, Lawrence County.
Well, you got good roots here in the county, and for someone in your position,
it's
good to know the county.
That's right.
I think that's pretty awesome. You graduated Lawrence County High School.
Yep,
What
graduated.
year did you graduate?
2010.
Oh my gosh, you're just a pup.
That's right.
2010. And now did you go to school after that?
I did, and it's funny. I think my mom was grateful that I finished it all, finished
Mine
college.
too.
But I went to 4 schools in 4 years. I could never figure out where I wanted to be. Actually, I started at UT Knoxville. I don't mind telling you. You have to think. In 2010, the feeling in Lawrence County was, hey, you have to get out and have an opportunity and live a good life. And so that's what much of my peers did. And I went off to Knoxville, and I realized pretty quick that, hey, I'm kind of homesick. Family, all my friends are still here. Came back, did Columbia State, got my basics. To be clear, had no idea what I wanted to study or what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Yeah.
And so did Columbia State, ended up going to Martin Methodist for a semester to kind of figure things out. I thought I was going to be a biology teacher, Jeff. That was not in the cards for me. So I ended up graduating from TSU in the spring of 2014. And
Let
Let me just say this. Being a biology teacher never crossed my mind. I'm just saying.
I very interested. Actually, I had a biology minor. I loved anatomy. Thought about nursing, thought about medical. Again, had no idea what I wanted to do.
Well, at that point in a young man's life, especially you with the background you had and the support, the family support, everything, you could have gone in any direction.
That's right.
You could have gone anywhere and done anything. but you found out that you like here.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I found out I liked here,
and
and so I realized, I should probably find a job here. And I was very lucky that I did a semester in Murfreesboro, lived off for a little bit, and then Judge McGuire called. She and I got to church together, and she was looking for an assistant for her office and to work with some of the juvenile court things as well. And so
Okay.
I spent a year working in the court system.
Well, let's talk about that. I don't think I knew that part of your history. I don't think or at least I don't remember that part of your history. So what was that like?
It was interesting.
It was very eye-opening.
And again, think about 21, 22-year-old kid. Trying to figure things out. At one point I was like, I'll go to law school. I'll go to law school. But then it occurred to me I should probably get some practical experience, and that's when that opportunity just opened up for me. And my experience was basically we would do criminal court on Tuesdays. Trooper court was every other Friday. We did some civil cases, and I was basically the person helping judge organize the docket, making sure that we didn't stay all night in court. And that was half the job. The other half of the job was the youth service officer position, which are grant-funded positions in the juvenile court. And part of my job was to organize volunteer work and deal with our community's delinquent youth. And I don't mind telling you, one thing I started noticing was, number one, I didn't want to be a country lawyer. Nothing against our legal firms here. They do great work. It's not for me. Too much reading. Well, I noticed everyone that came to the court system, they didn't have the same opportunities I had. Right? They didn't have legacy family businesses. They didn't have the support system that I had. And they didn't have jobs. And I decided that, okay, I'm going to give myself a year here. Let's kind of test things out and see what happens. At the time, Daniel Webb was the president of the chamber, and I approached him and I said, hey, no one has a job that gets in trouble. Maybe if they had a job, they wouldn't get in trouble. Maybe these kids, instead of running around being delinquent, I'm not saying that, Jeff, I'm sure you weren't like that when you were a youth. And,
not much.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't much either. But I realized, maybe if they had jobs like I had, working at the car lot, working at family businesses, maybe they wouldn't have been in as much trouble. And so I approached Daniel, and they were gracious enough. At the time, Facebook and all the social media was kind of starting. And they wanted to increase their presence. So I started as an intern at the chamber, and that was 2014. But I left in December of 2014, both the chamber and as an intern and judge's office at the time. And I realized that I've got to take a leap of faith and figure out what's next. And so I applied for some other gigs. I worked at a local law firm, just doing paperwork and billing, just trying to figure things out. And about that time, some opportunities opened up at the chamber, and I hopped on that, and I was very fortunate to hop on. So now I've been there 8.5 years. It'll be 9 years in August.
Yeah.
So
I know this is not necessary because you had an experience there with Judge McGuire, and in that the juvenile scene there. And I don't even know how to ask you about this, but are there programs in place now that weren't back then? Because this has been an ongoing talking issue for many years. What about our youth? What do they do? Those kind of things. So, are there some things that have happened since you were there?
One, there's been lots of legislation passed in various things, whether it's severe crime if you're 17, they try you as an adult, or things like that have, I think, been effective in deterring some, but I think more effective have been the investments in mental health in our schools and the programmatic things there to recognize dependency, neglect, and just delinquent youth behavior and crime, and then have interventions. And so, with that said, I don't know that the metrics are any better, but they're certainly not as bad. And when you dealt with things, it would be anything from, hey, a kid vandalized a street sign and he got 20 hours of community service, to a kid that was already addicted to meth at age 15. And we'd go and we'd check on kids,
which is a huge problem.
It is a huge problem. And we'd go check on kids, and maybe they're sleeping, and it's crazy.
4 blocks from my house, I remember I walked into a mobile home that was sitting on the ground, had no foundation, and the kid was sleeping in the dirt. And that was just foreign to me. And I was like, I grew up here. I had no idea that was a thing. So again, it was so eye-opening to me to see, like, man, there are people here that don't have hope. And we can do better. And what we learned, what I noticed, also at the same time, there were talks about, hey, let's improve our education, let's build a college, let's make sure we have a better educated workforce, and we empower people to make decisions to get them out of those situations. And again, so that's what kind of drove me to work in economic development specifically, and then community development. How do you promote education? How do you bring more jobs in? How do you make sure now it's how do you make sure we do things efficiently and sustainably, but also we preserve what we have and the family atmosphere and values we have without outgrowing that. And so I know that's kind of a long-winded way to say I would say that was probably the most rewarding job I've ever had. And I love my job, it's very rewarding, but to impact day to day those kids, it was just a blast. It was eye-opening. And I give it up for Judge Harris now and Ashley Duncan and the team down there, because they see things that a lot of people don't think are in our community.
There's a whole world there that a lot of us are not exposed to. And unfortunately for some, they seem to be stuck in that world. So there's always been this effort, I think, by individuals, like yourself and others, who have to deal with it, and then figure out a way to try to make it better. Which is not an easy thing.
No.
Not an easy thing at all. By the way, you're a fast talker.
Yes, I am.
I'm just going to say you're a fast talker. I'm going to slow you down a little bit.
Sure, please do. I usually have a disclaimer when I go and speak. Of course, I had all of my coffee this morning, so it could be faster, it could be worse.
Well, so you begin to be involved in economic development. Now, you didn't start out in your current position.
Right.
So at the beginning of things, take us back to those years or that year when you began to really say, okay, this is a good direction for me. And what was going on in Lawrence County at that time, the chamber world, the business climate, that kind of thing. Because you've had your finger on this pulse a long time.
Yep. So let's rewind to August of 2015. That's when I started. At the time, we had just completed the construction of a speculative building in Team Lawrence Commerce Park. The year prior, in Team Lawrence Commerce Park, for those that don't know, was our publicly owned industrial park.
Now that's up north of town.
Correct. Today, there are 4 businesses there, and I'll get into that in a moment. But we just finished the construction, meaning the city of Lawrenceburg had. County owned the land, and we just sold some land to FedEx, which is there today, employs quite a few people.
Right.
And
now the building you're talking about, that first building you're talking about, I remember this, of course. And it sat there for a little while.
It did.
Of course, but now everybody knows it as what?
Craig Manufacturing.
Craig Manufacturing.
That's right. And y'all, we showed that building a lot to various clients. And it's one thing in my field. It's almost like you're chasing a press release. Sometimes you want the good news, and that validates, like, oh yeah, I'm a winning coach, if you will. We look beyond just the press release. We want a good community partner, and it's one of those things. When Craig came in, the first day we knew, like, these are our people. This is going to be a great community partner. The same thing. We felt the same with Magna. We felt the same with Flexco. Everyone that's located here, we've had that feeling of these are our people, and this feels like home. And so. But anyway, let's think about that. That's kind of the today structure. Back then, we were still 10 years removed from Murray closing its doors. I guess it was 04, 05. And that was still very much part of our story. It still is today. But the story was, hey, we had a large employer go out. We have workforce. We have available infrastructure. And we realized that in communicating that message specifically, you were actually hurting yourself, because you're saying, hey, somewhere closed, or that someone closed, is the business climate good there? Is this community viable for business? So we changed our messaging to be like, hey, this is a place of opportunity. This is a place to put down roots and the like. And so in 2015, just the metrics, I could tell you the per capita income was about $20,000. That's 20.
This was when
2015. Yeah, it was hovering around $20,000, and today I'm wanting to say we're in the mid 30s. So that's a substantial increase in a 10-year period. The median household income has gone from the mid 30s to the mid 50s, and so we were considered at the time an at-risk community, which means. The state of Tennessee has 4 levels. You have your attainment community, and then you have your distressed communities, at risk, and transitional. And that's kind of how they categorize how you're doing economically. On the west side of our region, think Lawrence, Wayne, Perry, Lewis counties, historically distressed. And it's not really our fault. It's just like we relied on different industries. Our interstate access wasn't as good. Smaller population base.
and those locations are away from major populations.
Exactly.
And some we like it that way to some degree.
Exactly. And it's not for everybody, but it is for somebody. And but at the time, our goal was we just don't want to be distressed or at risk anymore. And then we decided we wanted to be the poster child of economic development and rural development in the state. And so me and then the entire team at the chamber at the time, we just said, hey, our goal, we're going to build the spec building, whatever it takes. And that took 3 years. At the same time, in doing that, we realized, hey, we really need to have programmatic equity in our career and technical education in our schools. What can we do to help our school systems do that? And at the time, we transitioned from Bill Heath to Johnny McDaniel, and now Mr. Atkins, and we've had a very progressive and really progressional, I guess, strategy of, hey, this is how the schools need to be reaching out into businesses. They've done a great job of that. We've also looked at tourism in different lights too. We've gone from our just having a very small $10,000 budget to $30,000 tourism budget from the county, and now the Fed has actually chipped in with some grants recently to help us build out a program, and that's gone from just what is tourism to a whole new brand. Visit Lawrenceburg, that market. So.
I'm going to back you up and
sure.
I'm going to back you up because I want to go back to the original spec. This 3-year period here, and because I know a little bit about the economic development effort. And of course, like any business owner in Lawrenceburg and Lawrence County, what happens when someone comes in or leaves or anything happens on an economic level, it affects our businesses.
That's right.
And of course, the chamber is all about our businesses to keep us rolling, I guess, and to enhance our standard of living and how we enjoy life here in Lawrenceburg and Lawrence County. But what I was thinking about is okay. We've got the big building, which was built before you came on to the chamber. So it's sitting there, and we know that, okay, the sell is that, hey, we've got a place ready for you to go.
That's right.
But who do you talk to? So I'm thinking, okay, we got this nice building, but who do you go talk to? And I happen to know a little bit about this, but I think it'd be good if you elaborate on that a bit. Because you can't just stand there in the highway with a bullhorn. And hope somebody passes by. So what's the process of getting this kind of picture out to the right people?
So the one question in our situation is, who are the right people to talk to?
Exactly.
And so in the state of Tennessee, we have a great infrastructure for business development is what you would call it. And when I use the term project, I'm talking about a company seeking to expand or locate in a new location.
Right.
There are also a private group. They're called site selectors, and those are consultants that, if you're a business looking to expand, much like you might call a realtor, there are site location consultants and site selectors that will analyze everything from favorable tax policy, utilities, workforce, incentives, land requirements, your manufacturing process, and to make sure that you're making the right decision at the time. So I say that to say this. The groups that we deal with frequently are
are the Tennessee Valley Authority. They have a whole economic development arm, and they have what's called target market specialists. And so the TVA, 7-state region, they generate power, sell it to local power companies, and of course, everyone has an interest in growing the customer base. And so they identify on an annual basis, hey, we're going after automotive companies this year. We're going after data centers. We're going after food and beverage. We're going after life science. Whatever that is. And then they have a basically an in-house consultant that goes and courts companies. They go to the ceramic tile conference, or they go to XYZ conference to get with industry, understand the trends, and then communicate that back. So that's TVA. Then you have the State Department of Economic and Community Development. They have what's called Directors of Business Development. In the same way, they say, hey, here's our automotive guy, here's our ceramics guy or materials guy, here's our life science person. And they go and build relationships with site selectors and companies directly as well. And then you have those site selectors that find a niche somewhere. But my job is to maintain relationships with that entire group of people, because what happens, and I'll give you an exact example of Craig Manufacturing.
Okay.
Here's the process. I can go and generate a project, or I can. That's a proactive or reactive. In our situation, because we have such a great infrastructure, we have the opportunity to kind of focus on building the community up, getting it in a sales-ready position, and then be a little bit reactive, and especially now. I'll save that talk for later. But anyway, here's how Craig went. I got an email one day from a local or a director of business development with the state. Her name's Lindy, and Lindy said, "Hey, I've got a company. They're looking to create 50 or 60 jobs. They're looking to invest this much money. They're looking for a building, and I understand that you guys have a building." Available, and I said absolutely. So I sent them a property flyer, and then they said, "Hey, they want to know more about the community." We sent them our community profile information, and to be clear, they have already done a lot of due diligence. There's a lot of public data. And so Craig came in, and they basically knew more about our community than we did, which I thought was interesting. But when you're making a multi-million-dollar business decision, you better know right.
So they've studied.
They've studied very, very, very intensively. But we give them information. They evaluate. And I don't mind telling you, economic development is a losing game. On average, we respond to somewhere between 90 and 110 of those requests for information for projects. That's what that means. On an annual basis, we're lucky to get 20 to 30 responses, asking for more information. Then we're lucky for 12 of those, on average, to come and visit our community in person.
Yes.
And so... Once like for example, Ben and Les, so Ben Craig and Les Harding, who were kind of the Craig Manufacturing site selection team, if you will, and then of course they had a whole team in Canada evaluating this too. But they said, hey, we want to go visit Tennessee. They came and they narrowed it down to 3 sites, and it was, I think, Fayetteville, Lawrenceburg. We had a building as well, Lawrenceburg, and then I think Houston and Stewart County up in kind of like northwest, middle Tennessee. But ended up. One reason we won that project was, number one, they said this feels like home. They had a good feeling. That matters. But logistically, they'll tell you, the Fayetteville building, it had a concrete floor, whereas ours didn't. So they were going to have to put miles of conduit down. So they would have had to get that concrete out and relay, which is a capital expense, whereas ours was more flexible.
Sure.
So
that's an interesting strategy there. That was on purpose, I think.
It was. We left it as a shell unfinished because we don't know what kind of business we wanted. At the time, you also have to think we were hungry. It was just jobs. You don't care what it was. We need more jobs here. Again, today we're a little more selective. But that was. We were first engaged in April or May of 2018. We had a chance to host their team multiple times. And then actually that August had a chance to go up and visit their facility in Heartland, Canada, in New Brunswick. If you don't know where that is, it's on the far Atlantic coast. So you actually have to fly into Maine and then drive, or you can go up to Fredericton. But regardless, it was amazing for them to describe the process, their manufacturing process to us. But it was a whole other experience to go and see it. Because we wanted to make sure, like, hey, is this a good fit for our community?
Sure.
And it just was. And today, that project evolved over time. It went from 50 to 60 jobs. It was, I think, 80, a little over 80 jobs that they committed, and that's how many people they have employed today, 5 years later.
I've watched it going up down the highway. I've watched it. It kind of had that little growth start, and I would say, well, there's not many people in the parking lot there. And that went on for a little while, but then it just began to kind of blossom. And of course, you see the product outside there sometimes, the big scoops, as I want to call them. So a great industry. And a good story, too, on how that came to be. But it wasn't an overnight success. I mean, it took a while.
No, this is a marathon game. And it's not just a marathon game on the recruitment side, but also on the growth side. That was something that when the building was still vacant and available, I like the term available better, we would get phone calls, and then commissioners and the councilmen, they would get phone calls. Why is that big building sitting there? Why did we build that big building? I'm sure you've heard that. Well, all of a sudden you announce it, and we're like, this is why we built it. Well, then all of a sudden, like you said, there's 5 or 6 cars in the parking lot, and they said, oh, they promised 80 jobs. I'm like, they announced last month, right? Like, this doesn't happen overnight, because it's also a marathon for business, too, as they grow.
Sure.
I'll quote one of our founding fathers, David Crockett. Be sure you're right and go ahead. Well, that's a great business strategy. And I think Craig is just one of many examples of recent recruitment projects that has methodically said, like, hey, this is a good decision.
Yeah.
And then, hey, they're seeing success.
Well, obviously we've seen quite a bit more happen in that park. There's been addition to the park. There's been more growth in the park, and there's current construction. There's current construction going on up there. So step by step, after Craig, and I know there's a lot that happened, and you probably can't go into all the details of each one that came about. But you mentioned the FedEx project, and of course they were already here, but in a much smaller capacity. I was involved to some degree in selling the other building where they were. And of course, they've got a big, nice facility there now.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one is
H&M Bay. They announced kind of concurrently with Craig.
I know less about them than any of the others.
So they're different as far as operationally. They are a frozen and refrigerated food distribution company. They committed to create about 40 jobs, but those jobs are again different in the sense of they're more of your part-time logistics, and it's also weekend work. In fact, they have facilities in other places across the U.S. And they were talking about how Walt was the gentleman's name that we worked with throughout the process, and he was talking about how there would be like an accountant or something or a lawyer that would do that during the week, and he just wanted to make extra money on the weekend. And we were like, that's not a bad idea to have a company like that. And Also, you have to picture this on a map. You have Craig, who had a number of acres, and FedEx. There wasn't much space, and so we thought this is a great fit. And also, one thing we have to overcome is we're 30 miles from the interstate. To land a distribution company is a really big deal.
It is a big deal.
Because it solidifies that, hey, we have transportation infrastructure to get places. Sure. So they were building concurrently. And so the entire east side of the park, because there was a roadway that was kind of planned, and utilities were run there years ago, years before the spec building was there. In fact, it was like the late 2000s. But we filled up the east side. And that meant that our available product went from about 2.4 million available square feet of industrial space and 116 acres of publicly owned land. It meant we went from that in 2015. If you get to 2020, we had about I'd have to say about 250,000 square feet of available space and 70 acres. So at that point, we realized, like, okay, here's our product. What can fit was one question. What do we need to kind of either diversify our industry base or what fits well? And then the third thing is, how do you expand your product inventory? And there's no shortage of construction going on in Lawrence County right now. North to south, it doesn't matter where you're at. But
we can talk more about that. But let's go back to your original question. I can't remember what it was, Jeff.
I don't either.
No, I was talking about how
what came next. After Craig, then there was.
So Craig and then H&M Bay, they announced concurrently in 2018. I think it was maybe it was also later 18 or early 2019, but Advanced Design Solutions, another Canadian company, automotive supplier, they announced that they were going to be purchasing the south side of the Murray building, the Murray complex. So if you're familiar with that entire development, it's about 60, 70 acres. You're talking about 2.5 million square feet. The south side, and everything used to come in the south side and it would run its way up north to the distribution side.
Right.
I guess it was the late 2000s, early 2010s. Gobble Properties bought the north side, and then Modine expanded a new plant into that.
Right.
And then the Gobble family also established Livingstone Freight there as well. But the south side was kind of a really good multi-use space, multi-tenant, if you will. At the time, AOC Metals, they had their stamping division, and still do have their stamping division in that building. And then there was enough space left that Advanced Design Solutions said, hey, that's a great building for us. We don't need to build new, and we'll bring another 180 jobs in.
So what used to be Murray?
Yep.
It houses how many businesses?
Oh, count. 1, 2, 3. You get all sorts of logistics. 4, 5. And then, so I know there's at least 5, and then there are 2 technical colleges in there. People don't know that.
People don't know that.
Yeah, there is a CNC machine program and an industrial maintenance program that are just full. They're offered by TCAT Pulaski and TCAT Hollowell, respectively. And that's been a great addition, right? Because I can go and get my machine, I can go become a machinist, I can go become a maintenance technician, and I can, I'm in the industrial park, I can immediately pick up a job. And that was an effort. Oh Lord, many years. Yeah, so what's next, right? We land a company, well then we have to serve that company. So our bread and butter is the service after the sale, and so we try our best to say, hey, workforce is part of our services. Let's go draw down some state money. Let's see what we can do to raise money to improve specifically that facility, and so we've been embedded that. So
people may not realize it. They may look at that Murray building and say, well, it's a shame Murray's not anymore, but
it's full.
It's full.
Yep.
There's a lot going on at the Murray building.
Yep.
And that's called something else. What do we call that place over there?
The Tennessee Enterprise Center.
Tennessee Enterprise Center.
That's right. It's kind of a mouthful, but I did fail to mention there is a small space, and Magna has their temporary facility there right now. So technically there are 6 businesses and 2 TCATs.
Now Magna is a Pulaski plant.
So Magna International is you're thinking about Magna.
I'm sorry, Magna. Sorry.
Yeah. There's a lot of M words here. Magna, Modine, Morelli. There's a lot.
So the new Magna plant is being built north of town.
Yes.
What is that complex called? The industrial park.
So that's Team Lawrence Commerce Park.
Team Lawrence. You guys are might catch up on my team now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So they have a temporary facility or temporary operation now.
Yes, they have temporary facilities for staging, for hiring their core team. In the same way that Craig, they came in and hired their core team before they expanded big. That's what Magna's doing very methodically.
For folks who don't know, what kind of industry is Magna? What are they going to do?
Yes. So Magna International is the world's 3rd largest automotive supplier. Here is their Cosma division, which does stamping for their frames, or for automotive frames. So think about any car you have. They have facilities all over the world, and they're also expanding into battery trays. Here, this specific project, Phase 1 project, is dedicated to serve Louisville City and West Tennessee. So Ford Motor Company, they'll be doing the frames for the Ford F-150 Lightning, and it's a huge facility. I'm wanting to say they are building a just over 450,000 square foot facility there in Team Lawrence Commerce Park on the west side. They are. They've taken down, I guess, 72 acres. So that was the last of our publicly owned industrial land. And they started moving dirt last July, and it's unreal to go up there and drive by and see it today.
Yeah, it's a big project. And it got a lot of attention.
It's 8:41. We got a few more minutes left. We'll fill up till 9:00, and I wanted to ask you about a couple of things. Number one, the college came into play.
Yep.
South of Lawrenceburg. Yep. The bypass, of course, has been there. But I watched that construction go on because I lived on it while it was being built, and then we moved later. But and then so over years, a period, we've seen that. I guess what I was about to say is four-lane highway from Lawrenceburg anywhere you want to go.
Yep. That's when you look at it on paper, and you have to realize, like I mentioned a little bit ago, a lot of people look at things on paper and then they evaluate and make their decision based off of a spreadsheet.
Right.
And our job, a lot of it was overcoming the data because the data didn't work. But also the data wasn't correct 100% of the time.
Right.
A lot of people talk, and it's lesser today. We've seen a number of new like retail businesses open, new restaurants and the like. But let's go back to 2015. Everyone was like, "Man, I got to go out of town to go get a good steak dinner." I'm like, "Well, why? No, you don't."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, more. You can get a good steak almost at every restaurant now. It's awesome. But people they would go to Cool Springs and they would go to Nashville or Columbia or Florence or Huntsville. And what we realized was like, you know what? Like, and then everyone wanted a chain, right? They wanted the Longhorn, they wanted an Outback, they wanted whatever. And we kind of stepped back and said, what about our local business owners? What about the local flavor? Like when I go to Nashville, I don't go to Longhorn Steakhouse. I love Longhorn Steakhouse. Nothing wrong with that. But I go to the local place, right?
I usually try to find the locals place, no matter where.
Yeah, exactly. And so we kind of said, hey, wait a second. And that's when, again, go back 10 years. It was actually 10 years this year. The city and the chamber and Lawrenceburg Utility Systems came together and said, hey, we're going to move downtown because we think this is an opportunity to foster that mom and pop environment.
Yeah.
And again, look at downtown today. It's unreal.
I can tell you, even from people who are coming to Lawrenceburg to live here, for whatever reason, leaving because they're leaving states where they don't like the state anymore.
Yep.
They don't like the environment. And California is an example. I get it a lot. I mean, of course, you know the business I'm in. I get to see a lot of folks who are, in fact, just yesterday had some folks that were looking here. And this person specializes in helping people get from California to here.
Wow.
How about that?
That's wild.
And so I'm like, and this person said they really liked Lawrenceburg and looked at a house yesterday, one they had listed. And I was fascinated to talk to her about. She specializes in helping people relocate to Tennessee.
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, that's such a process, and not to be too philosophical or even political. But it saddens me that we have sister states that are really struggling in that way. But I'm very grateful that we live in a place that does it right. And we're seeing an increase of that.
Very much so.
It is funny. I wonder, are you getting? A lot of people are out there. We call them political refugees, if you will. But everyone's like, don't California my Tennessee or whatever. What I'm finding is a lot of times people have more guns than I have.
Well, they're leaving because they're conservative thinking.
That's right.
Really, seriously. You probably know the folks that come here from Bend, Oregon.
Yep.
The Bend Soap Company, which is located in the old Bob Surplus building. It took them a while to get up and running, but I've made good friends with those, and they brought a lot of folks with them.
That's right.
It's not a huge company, but it's a good company.
Yeah.
And good people, and they're making local investments.
That's right.
Big time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's funny, again, 2015, 2016, 2017, it was let's win businesses. And today, the narrative is changing to let's win families. And Dwight and them are a great example.
Yes, absolutely.
Of, hey, we want a family here. And guess what? Families have businesses.
Well, yeah, they have businesses. They're entrepreneurial in their thinking.
Yep.
And they're creating opportunities for a lot of us.
That's right.
Really, really good. I mentioned the school, the college.
Yep.
Tell me what the current status there is. What's happening?
Sure. So anyone that either opened a business or did something new and were leading up into 2020, of course, all the rules got thrown out the window. And to be blunt, there's two things working against us. So not only did we move locations, but COVID hit, and then college going rates in Tennessee, really nationally, have been going down. And so we're almost back to even as far as student census goes. But we're also learning that, hey, this is a multi-use facility. What else can we do to add value just to the community at large? And what we've noticed is it's more than just a college. For example, almost on a monthly basis, our ag community gets together down there and they have seminars on whether it's beekeeping or whatever. Yes, student life is still good though, but we use it for events. We've hosted, in fact, you'll get a kick out of this, we hosted a project, I guess it was last summer. And we used the big community room there to do that. And while we were giving the presentation, like the big community pitch and learning about the company and having the conversation, students were doing goat yoga outside. Goat yoga. Go check it out.
I have heard of it. Unbelievably enough.
So anyway, but point being, it's very much a community facility and it's expanded beyond your Columbia State. Of course, Tennessee Tech is still there, but now UT Southern is there as well. Offering a master's program, and so it really is. And I can't.
So you can get a 4-year degree without leaving Lawrence County.
You can get a master's degree without leaving Lawrence County.
That's something that people may not realize.
That's right.
And I have a 15-year-old daughter who's chomping at the bit to go to college, and keep telling me she wants to go off. And I said, "There's going to be no reason. There's going to be no reason for you to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep you right here."
No, that's right. Again, we're trying to win people, right? Win families. You have to retain people too, and that has been such a game changer for us. And we're like people ask that question a lot of times, like what's going on at the college. They want to know when's the next building coming, or when's the next program coming. And we're evaluating that. We always are. Again, the education market has changed. College going rate is in decline, and that's of no fault of anybody. In Tennessee, especially because we have free technical and community college with the Tennessee Promise and Reconnect, but. When you look at our current infrastructure, we have TCATs already embedded. And if you don't know what a TCAT is, it's the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. We partner with Pulaski and Hole and Wall campuses. We have TCATs embedded in all 3 of our high schools. And we have 2 service centers right here in Lawrenceburg already. In fact, we don't have a headquartered or home-based TCAT in Lawrenceburg or Lawrence County itself, but we're a top 10 community for TCAT enrollment in the state of Tennessee.
How about that?
And so, again, we look at the data and we say, is a TCAT building next out there? Well, maybe. But maybe not. And so we're in flux there, trying to figure that out.
The system that's in play is successful as far as students.
That's right.
It really is.
Yeah. And the system's there. I think we do need, and we have these conversations all the time, making sure that our programs are meeting businesses' needs and have the right quality. It's one thing to have the programs and everyone goes through and you push them through, but if the quality isn't there, they're worthless. And so we are constantly getting our businesses in front of TCAT and our TCAT in front of businesses to have those conversations.
In the position that you're in, of course, you've got your finger on the pulse of just about everything that moves or shakes. In Lawrenceburg, Lawrence County, and even some of the surrounding counties, because you're connected with that business development environment. And those of us that are in the business I'm in, we get a little taste of it here and there when someone contacts us, and we kind of know when somebody's looking for something. I had a call recently from and I can't say it, but I had a call from a place that wants to locate in Lawrenceburg, a business that wants to locate, and everybody's going to lose their minds if they do. Now it's a long way away, and who knows? But you have those kind of moments all the time.
I do, and it's funny. Before I worked at the chamber, I actually knew more about the businesses coming in. When you work at the chamber, you get the real story. And as it turns out, the Lawrence County Rumor Mill is very strong.
Oh, sure. It is in any community.
Oh, absolutely. But you bring up a very good point, right? Businesses call every day, and there are a lot of times they're evaluating things.
Yes.
And that's one reason why things oftentimes are so confidential. If I'm planning a business, I don't really want my competition to know that, hey, this is what I'm planning, because then I'll lose my market share. As an example.
in the situation you're talking about, and we'll talk off the air because I'm sure we know what we're talking about in that situation. That still matters because once there's speculation of, hey, they're coming in, well, although the land prices around go up, and then you have this speculation like inflation bubble that not that we're dealing with it bad now, but it could be worse, and so but we are seeing more retail for the first time, and that's because our population has increased to a level that is attractive. Our income is attractive, and the job growth.
That's what I was going to ask you about. How has the population increased over the last few years in Lawrenceburg?
In Lawrenceburg. Yes. We very much market on a county basis. When we talk to retailers, we often talk regionally as well. So Lawrence County today has 46,000. Well, let me back up. Lawrence County on July 1st of 2023, because of data lags, had 46,114 people. That is a very large growth from the 43,000 that we had in 2015. It's not as much as our neighboring Murray or Limestone counties down in Alabama. I don't know that we want a 20% growth rate every 5 years. A 10% every 10 years, not bad. It's something we can keep up with, and we're lucky we have the infrastructure to do that. But population is growing, and it's growing. I think you'll get a kick out of this, but the Boyd Center for Economic Research, which is the state's premier center at UT Knoxville, they I think 2 years ago, after the census data was put out from 2020 and aggregated, they did population projections to 2070. They said that Lawrence County was going to peak, and again, everyone should know this. Birth rates are down worldwide, but there's like this curve that like everyone peaks in 2050 in the U.S. and then goes down a little bit.
Okay.
We were supposed to peak at about 45,000 people in 2050 and we've already surpassed that. So number one, I've called my friends at the Boyd Center and like, hey, you might want to consider redoing your numbers.
I happen to pay attention to a lot of news. I listen to news talk, and a lot of economic news and sitting there. And I can say this with consistency. The economic predictors are almost always wrong.
It's like a meteorologist.
It's like they're almost always wrong. If they're predicting some kind of economic whatever, you can count on it not being what they said.
That's right. It's in the same way. This is a lesson that I learned early on working at the chamber, and in fact, it was at the time State Representative Barry Doss said that his dad always told him that a recession is a mindset. And it is. If you believe there's opportunity, you will make opportunity. If you believe you're better than whatever, you can be better. And that goes personally and communally.
There's a lot to be said for just getting out there and making stuff happen. That's good. Very good. There's so many things I could ask you about. So I've got to ask you about some of the stuff that's on everybody's mind. We mentioned it briefly earlier today, but how in the world did the Amish land come into play?
I think it was again, ironically, I just mentioned Barry. I'll invoke his name again, and Barry, if you're listening, correct me if I'm wrong, my colleagues. But at the time, Barry was the chairman of transportation in the state legislature, and there's just honestly safety issues. And so when you realize that, hey, there's huge safety issues, and you also wield the power of whatever that is, then you can say, hey, we need to fix this pretty quickly. And so people think that the city or the county built it. That's not what happened. The state of Tennessee.
State house.
That's right. That's exactly right. But that's
kind of the direction Laney Hurst. I'm just kidding.
Hey, listen, he's going to get his cut.
I'm just kidding. And of course, the big news on April 1st was the Amish Paradise theme park that's coming. I have to say that's pretty good. My wife loves that kind of stuff, and she said, "Have you seen this?" And I said, "Well, actually, I did." And so we had a lot of fun with that. And whoever wrote that, I don't know.
It was Clint Alley.
Clint, that's right. Clint Alley did it.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Yes, he's a neighbor of mine.
Yes. Clint's one of the best. If you haven't, he didn't pay me to do this plug, but if you have not read his book, History Trivia, there are so many great stories, and I'm very grateful that there's someone that's kind of picking up the torch and telling our story in that way. It's very interesting. But no, I thought that was a pretty good post that he made. I thought it was
obviously timely with being tools. But I got calls from my friends all over the state. They said, "This is the funniest thing ever," and I said, "Yeah, it's pretty good,
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's
Stuff like that is just
typical of our hometown personality.
That's right.
It's just part of who we are too. And of course, Clint has got his finger on the pulse of history and Lawrence County, that kind of thing.
So what's on the horizon for the Chamber of Commerce?
I know there's always there's stuff that's happening. There's people inquiring and saying, but what do you see in the next 3 to 5 years in Lawrenceburg and Lawrence County?
So number one, I would be remiss not to mention that coming up on our new fiscal year, July 1st, but it is the Chamber's 75th year in existence. And our Chamber hasn't always been the Chamber plus the economic development. In fact, we merged in the mid-2000s with what was at the 21st Century Council at the time. I remember that. But we merged, and now we are, for all intents and purposes, one of the state's leading organizations. I'm not saying that because I work there, right? Like, we are recognized as a leader in rural development and tourism development and business development and community development and government relations and whatever. And it's because, number one, of the support of our local officials, of our local business leaders, and then I have just the best team around me. It is an absolute blessing and privilege to get to wake up every day and do that. So again, number one, we're getting to celebrate 75 next year. Very excited about that. But we hope to use this as a launching point of saying what's next and identifying what that is. And what we're noticing as we kind of poke around and feel that out is that, like I mentioned a little bit ago, and this was actually one of the first times I've used this kind of talking point. But we were in the business of winning businesses. Now it's the business of winning families. We want Lawrence County to be the best place in America to raise a family. And to do that, there are things we have to push for. Better schools. Safer neighborhoods. It sounds like a campaign speech, right? Better schools, safer neighborhoods, opportunity for everybody. Our wheelhouse at the Chamber is the opportunity piece. We also have our fingers in things such as schools, specifically the CTE, and that really is more advisory. We can do grants, we can write grants, we're good at that. But you can see an increased effort from us as the voice of business speaking into those three things specifically. I have to give it up to our local, and when I say safe neighborhoods, I'm talking about more than just law enforcement. There's a movement right now, county fire type things, but it goes our first responders at large. We've got to do a better job there, and the county has done and have made very good investments. But again, not our wheelhouse. We commend them for that, but that's part of our strategy, right? So county and cities are also doing very well financially. Part of business development is expanding the tax base. So as you get more retail in, sales tax dollars go up. When you bring new hotels in, lodging tax revenues go up. Property tax goes up.
Are there still plans for the new hotel?
Yes.
That's still in the works?
Yeah, still in the works. And I hope I'm not oversharing, and so if any of the goblins are listening, I'm sorry. But this will be the newest model of the Hampton Inn in America. So it'll be the brand new look, and it's going to be the nicest in the country. We're very excited about that. But that's what we're waiting on, them to release those.
Good deal. Well, we're out of time, and we could talk for another hour. I know we could. There's so many things that, and I will say this, you guys, I think, are doing a great job. Ryan, you've done a great job. Very much involved, and right on top of things, it seems like. And every time I've ever called you or asked for anything, it's been responsive, and I appreciate that. And I will say what you just said. I think it's probably better than anything else is making Lawrence County a great place to live. It always has been. But the more we can do for families to enjoy living here, which brings a lot with it. There's a lot of lot of tentacles to that.
Yeah.
But that's the key, because when we have people coming here to move to Lawrenceburg or Lawrence County, I think some of them that if they give it a chance know that, gosh, this is a great place to live.
Yeah.
Great place to live.
It's the truth, and it's cliche. Every chamber, every community says we want to be a great place to live, work, and play.
Yeah.
I've learned there's nowhere better on planet Earth. So.
I think you're right. Ryan Egley, everybody, thanks for being with me this morning. We'll have you back again.
Please do.
God bless, buddy.
Thanks, Joe.
Last month with $93 million cash on hand.
We have seen President Biden with a huge cash advantage when it comes to fundraising, but so far it's not translated to an advantage in the polls. The Wall Street Journal took a look at 7 different swing states. Let's start in Michigan, where Trump was campaigning yesterday. They have seen that Trump is leading by 3 points. Democrats concerned that Biden's support has slipped there because of the war in Gaza. In Georgia, Trump ahead by 1 point, and Wisconsin, one state where Trump is not leading, the race is tied. Trump was there last night. Biden's going to visit the state next week to talk about the economy.
Fox's Mark Meredith. The bodies of 6 foreign aid workers killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza have been moved to Egypt to be returned to their home countries. America's listening to Fox News.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
At least 9 people are reported killed, more than 900 injured in an earthquake in Taiwan. The U.S. Geological Survey puts the quake's magnitude at 7.4, the strongest there in 25 years. Dozens of people are trapped in highway tunnels and coal mines. Search crews have lost contact with 50 workers on minibuses heading to a hotel in a national park. Ukraine is taking steps to add more troops to its depleted military ranks in the war with Ukraine, the war with Russia.
A new law signed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky lowers the military conscription age from 27 to 25 in an effort to replenish its depleted ranks more than 2 years after Russia's invasion. It was passed by Ukraine's parliament last year. Officials have not given details on how many new soldiers the country is expected to gain as Ukraine prepares for an expected summer offensive by Russian troops. Ukraine has banned men younger than 60 from traveling abroad, which has led to many evading the draft in various ways. Commanders say they don't have enough soldiers to launch offensives against Russia, a country with a population of more than 3 times that of Ukraine. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
What time is it on the moon? Well, right now there isn't one, but that could change as we spend more time in space.
The White House has ordered NASA and other government agencies to work with the international community on a new lunar time system. The reason? Time moves more quickly on the moon, almost 59 microseconds per day, because there's less gravity there. The Apollo astronauts wore watches on the moon, but advanced satellites and GPS have made the keeping of time much more precise and important since then. NASA aims to send astronauts back to the moon in 2025, and no, the moon will not have daylight saving time. Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
Stocks just a bit higher this morning on Wall Street. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News.
Hello, everyone. Roy Williams here, the host of today's Health Update. I'd like to say thank you so much to all our listeners for tuning in to WDXC to learn how to live a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Our feedback proves that the public loves the issues we talk about. We strive to cover the truth concerning physical, mental, spiritual, and even political health. So if you're one of those people who really do want to know the truth, then plan to tune in on WDXC from 4:30 to 5. That's Monday through Friday. Listen to today's Health Update. You'll be glad you did.
Hello everyone, this is Wade Marston with the New Prospect Fire Department. We'll be having our annual Spring Fish Fry Saturday, April the 13th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Plates will be $15 for large, $10 for small, and will include fish, chicken, fries, slaw, hush puppies, and white beans. It's also your drink and dessert are included in the price. Local deliveries available, and all proceeds go to benefit the New Prospect Fire Department. Call 762-0866 for more information.
From the Fox News radio studios in Midtown Manhattan, it's the fastest growing radio talk show. Brian Kilmeade.
Hi, everyone, from 48th and 6th. Thanks so much for being here with Brian Kilmeade Show. It is torrential downpours. I understand it comes with the territory when it comes with April. One time, I would just like it to be nice 2 days in a row, but I am so glad winter's over. Jim DeMullen will be with us at the bottom of the hour. First-time guest for us, but if you have Instagram, you've seen some of his work. Co-founder of the School of Hard Knocks. He talks about it, very motivational. He finds people that are wealthy, seemingly wealthy, and find out what their story is. How many times they lost everything. How about what it took for them to get what they have right now, how much they are actually worth. And these people actually answer them, but they all leave clues and advice to how you can achieve their certain success. They're not famous people, so to speak, but they're successful people. And there's so many out there, so many positive stories. I just think James coming in here is going to be great. And check it out. If you're on Instagram right now, before he comes on, check out some of his work, the School of Hard Knocks Media. Daniel Hoffman is standing by, so let's get to the big three.
Now, with the stories you need to know, it's Brian's Big Three.
Number 3. The need to begin getting aggressive with Hezbollah, with the IRGC. Again, it's all Iran's race. Israel is prepared to raise the stakes at any minute.
That is Aaron Cohen, former IDF guy, widening the war. It looks like it's happening as Israel takes aim at Iran, Al-Quds Force members, and increasing the pace of Hezbollah hits in the north. Does that work for the U.S.? Yes.
Number 2.
The gag order impinges the First, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment rights of President Trump and the public's right to a public trial. The public must know all of the facts surrounding and underlying this case and the players in this case and their credibility.
And there's a lot of lack of credibility. I want a new judge. The Trump team makes their case for the new judge in the Alvin Bragg trial that's going to start in 2 weeks as more details come out about how compromised this judge in fact might be and how the president got his $175 million bond.
Number 1.
But I stand before you today to declare that Joe Biden's border a bloodbath, and that's what it is. It's a bloodbath, and it's destroying our country. It's a very bad thing happening. It's going to end on the day that I take office.
Trump on the trail. He goes to bat for cops in Grand Rapids and Green Bay, slamming Biden's border policy, and very happy about the last set of Wall Street Journal battleground polls. He's winning in 6 of 7 battleground states. The other one's just a tie in Wisconsin. Let's see if he can hold it. One thing we are saying right now, if you look around the world, it is a lot more dangerous place since he left. Some are circumstantial, and some are just flat-out bad policies that Joe Biden has put forward. Daniel Hoffman joins us now, station chief in Moscow, Iraq, Pakistan, South Asia, Europe, and most importantly, a Fox News contributor. Daniel, welcome.
Thanks for having me on the program.
So, Daniel, it came out yesterday that the U.S. not only warned Russia that there was going to be a terror attack, they even said the theater that it was going to take place, and it was brushed off. Now what?
Well, Vladimir Putin, failed to protect his capital city, and that will have ramifications for him. Whatever Potemkin village illusion of stability that he thought he had created, he put himself forward to the Russian people and his security services as the guy who was going to bring stability and order to Russia after the chaotic Yeltsin years. And if the population questions whether he's the right guy or not, I think the Federal Security Service, Putin's goons, can handle that. But his own security services have to be wondering, is he the right guy to handle this? This is after a major intelligence failure in Ukraine where they failed accurately to assess Ukraine's will and capacity to fight. And then this terrorist attack that arguably could have been prevented. Another massive intelligence failure. When you've got a mass casualty terrorist attack in your capital city that you had a chance to prevent, and the incident response was even awful. The guys fled the scene. They weren't even detained at the scene, which they should have been.
Yeah, they didn't get all of them, did they?
Well, we don't know. Reportedly, they were able to apprehend 11, but there's a larger network than that. These guys had money and guns, and that's something I'm sure the Russians, they're mounting a full court press right now to determine who the rest of the, what the rest of the network looks like, and find them and fix their location and apprehend them as well. But look, I think there's a lot of justifiable concern. While Vladimir Putin was talking about fictitious Nazis in Ukraine and focused on that brutal war that Prigozhin, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the now dead leader of the Wagner Group, exposed all those lies. While Putin's doing that and focusing Russia's resources there, Russia was vulnerable to a terrorist attack. And so that's a bad day for Vladimir Putin's regime security.
I think it is. Also, when you look at the fact that he's still trying to blame Ukraine, is that working?
Yeah, that's some weird cognitive dissonance right there. It's the same thing as saying that Russia's fighting a special military operation in Ukraine, or that there are Nazis running the Ukrainian government. It's all lies and obfuscation and subterfuge. That's the way he operates. But his own people, his own security services, they know the truth. And might be time for another CIA recruitment video. I've got a piece coming out in the Washington Times where I asked that question. That'll be out tomorrow. But Putin's own security services know about these lies. They know that their innocent fellow Russian citizens were killed as a result of Putin's mismanagement, and characterizing this attack as Ukraine being responsible. I mean, they all know the truth about that, and that might create a vulnerability we could exploit. We could certainly use more good sources in the Kremlin telling us what Vladimir Putin's next plan is.
Hard to believe, but Secretary of State Anthony Blinken yesterday criticized the Ukrainians for blowing up an oil field in Russia. They said it's not good. We don't want them to strike inside Russia. Dan, what are we doing? I mean, are we going to support this or not? Here we are 2 years in.
Yeah.
Russia's blowing up the entire infrastructure of Ukraine, and they can't hit any spot in Russia?
No, we should be telling them to do what they want, or if we don't have the guts to say that publicly, just keep our mouths shut about it and let them go about their business. Look, Ukraine is trying to hurt Vladimir Putin's war machine, and this is certainly one way to do it, because Vladimir Putin right now has funds thanks to exports of his hydrocarbons to China particularly, but also to India. And so Ukraine is taking the fight to the enemy. God bless them for doing it. And they're using drones to launch these attacks because we have not provided them with the equipment that they need. Of course, we've been waiting 6 months for the Ukraine supplemental to pass, and there's blame to be passed around on both sides of the aisle for that. But please don't, tell the Ukrainians to take it light on the Russians when the Russians have a history, if you look at this war, of ruthlessly deliberately targeting Ukrainian civilians in hospitals, maternity wards, neighborhoods. The Ukrainians have